Good morning, everyone. Secretary Redu, will you please call the roll?
Regent Bartel.
Here.
Regent Bradley.
Here.
Regent Crane.
Here.
Regent Danae Davis.
Here.
Regent Stan Davis.
Here.
Regent Drew. Regent Evers.
Here.
Regent Salvo.
Here.
Regent Loftus.
Here.
Regent Manydeeds.
Here.
Regent Pruitt.
Here.
Regent Smith.
Here.
Regent Spector.
Here.
Regent Vasquez.
Here.
Regent Walsh.
He's here. She is here.
Regent Wingate.
Here.
Regent Womack.
She's here also, getting coffee.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The minutes of the February 25th and March 10th meetings have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions? If not, they stand approved. The written report of the Wisconsin Technical College System Board has been provided. Are there any questions or comments? Regents on that board are Regents Stan Davis, Evers, Smith, and Vasquez. I wanted to use, the first item is the report from the President of the Board, and I wanted to use my final report to the Board to offer a few reflections on the journey that we've all been on over the last year. It was a year ago, last July, that Jay Smith and I authored a paper entitled Principles for Progress and Prosperity. Jay and I offered no earth-shaking or dramatically different observations than many of us and many of our predecessors on this board have been making for many years now. We talked about Wisconsin being at a crossroads. We know that to thrive in a global economy where innovation and knowledge are vital, our state needs more college graduates and more jobs. We also know that the people in the Wisconsin system, all of our campuses, and all of our faculty and staff are ready, willing, and able to help on both counts. We talked about how the business model between the state and the public university was a broken business model. We urged candidates and office holders to reinvest in the university as an engine for economic growth. We encouraged a new commitment to financial aid so that we can educate more low and moderate income students and free their families from crushing debt burdens. And we called for new management flexibilities that would enable our chancellors to manage their campuses more effectively, pay their employees more competitively, and make limited dollars go further. When the governor's budget was introduced last February, I think it would be fair to say it was not exactly what we were hoping for. And so we lived through the last 4 months, and with the results we discussed yesterday. As I was thinking about the journey of the last 4 months, I recalled that one of my favorite quotes from Robert Kennedy is when he was reflecting about the gross domestic product and all that it measures and all that it does not. Kennedy lamented that while the gross domestic product measures many things, it, quote, does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play. It does not include the beauty of our poetry or the strength of our marriages, the intelligence of our public debate, or the integrity of our public officials. It measures, Kennedy concluded, neither our wit nor our courage, neither our wisdom nor our learning, neither our compassion nor our devotion to our country. It measures everything, in short, except what makes life worthwhile. And it tells us everything about America except why we are proud that we are Americans, unquote. Our debate over the last months about governance and boards and separations reminds me a bit of Kennedy's view of the gross domestic product. This debate has been about many things, but not about the essential things that really matter. I hope we can take the opportunity now to get back to those essential things, because the ties that bind us are far stronger and more enduring than whatever short-term arguments or disagreements that may temporarily divide us. In recent months, we've had a bit of a family argument. I don't know about your family, but mine has lots of them. And after we've cleaned up the broken dishes and cooled down in whatever rooms we've stormed off to, we return to the dinner table with a renewed appreciation of our commitment to each other, a recognition that we care about each other, and a realization that to move forward as a family, we have to understand that we are all in this together. The same is true here. What brought us together as a university system and a university family 40 years ago, what will hold us together in the next 40 years, is the Wisconsin idea. And a deep and abiding commitment to the 182,000 students and 30,000 faculty and staff who depend on us. It's time now to move forward and understand and appreciate that central commitment. And I sincerely hope we will spend far more time in the months and years ahead in making our case in a strong and united way for the central role this university can play in the life of our state and the lives of our students. We need to commit to speaking clearly and in one voice to the state and all our stakeholders that continued deep cuts in state support are a short-sighted strategy for our state and our students. We need to get back to what is really important, making the case for why the state needs to reinvest in its public university system. 10 years ago, students and their families paid 38% of the cost of their education. Today, they pay 60%. And at a time when we need to be educating more low and moderate income students, that trend is unsustainable. We all know that the compensation for our world-class faculty, staff, and administrative leadership does not measure up to the competitive national and international market within which we compete. We will lose more and more talented members of the academic community unless we make our case and turn these trends around. On October 8, 1971, Governor Pat Lucey signed the legislation creating the University of Wisconsin system and said, quote, "This is the beginning of a new era in the education of Wisconsin's young people. Merger is now a reality, and we will all benefit because of it through the new University of Wisconsin system." 40 years later, anyone would be hard-pressed to prove that Pat Lucey got it wrong. UW-Madison has become one of only 4 public universities in the top 20 universities in the country. UW-Milwaukee, as we have learned anew in the last 2 days, is on a startling and exciting upward trajectory. UW-Oshkosh, Stevens Point, Green Bay, Stout, La Crosse, Eau Claire, all our campuses are unrecognizable today from where they were 40 years ago. This did not happen by accident. It happened because the union was strong, and it happened because we all stood together. It happened because our predecessors understood what really matters. The last 4 months have been interesting, but they have renewed my faith in both the importance of this mission and the critical need for us to stand together. I would hope it could be said that in these challenging times, this Board of Regents, these chancellors, and this system president kept the faith. We stayed the course, and we shared our commitment to a simple but powerful idea, the Wisconsin idea, and to a vision Pat Lucey worked so hard to realize 40 years ago. Dr. King used to remind us about how important it was that we keep our eyes on the prize. In a few minutes, we will honor the recipients of the Regents Teaching Excellence Awards. It reminds us of what this enterprise is really all about, and it's the prize we ought to be keeping our eyes on in the months and years ahead. I had the privilege of serving on the Teaching Awards Excellence Selection Committee when we chose John Coker from UW-Oshkosh. We've kept in occasional contact over the years, and in the midst of the efforts a couple months ago, John sent me an op-ed piece he submitted to the Oshkosh Northwestern. In it, he wrote the following, quote, "If nothing else, recent events in our state have more than ever heightened awareness and solidified the consensus regarding the precious value of education. We at the university do not try to teach students what to think. Rather, we strive at every turn to teach them how to think. We use the power of arts, the humanities, the sciences, and the social sciences to present students with the knowledge and skills to navigate through these complicated and uncertain times. No one wants our children and grandchildren in debt. Simply leaving them debt-free, however, with no means to think critically, problem solve, and learn is a short-sighted goal, one that makes us feel better now, but leaves the future population unequipped to deal with issues that seem eternal," unquote. John Coker has his eyes on the prize in Oshkosh. I'd hope all of us can add our eyes to his in the days ahead. Let me conclude by simply thanking a whole bunch of people. First, to my colleagues on this board who stood together, unified and with one voice. That unity and your commitment made everything possible. And I want to especially thank Mike Spector, whose wise counsel, brilliant mind, and steady hand has been invaluable over the last 4 months and the last 2 years. To our president, Kevin Riley, who demonstrated once again just how fortunate all of us are and all of Wisconsin is to have him at the helm of this university system. To the system staff, I started to compose a list. It got too long. I was sure I was going to leave somebody out, so I just want to thank all of you as a group, collectively and individually. In particular, I wanted to recognize Jess Tormey, who spent more time in the halls of the Capitol in the last 4 months than she ever imagined. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Jane Radu and her great team, Ann and Emily and Jess, who over the last 2 years has just been extraordinary. The last year and a half, actually. I'm the 2 weeks into my presidency, I managed to chase Judy Temby into retirement, as we all know, something that 12 system region presidents failed to do before I got here. And finally, to the chancellors, you have been the stars of this show. I am in awe and so deeply appreciative of all you do to manage your campus, and particularly these times, and all you have done in the last 4 months to preserve this 40-year union. That work will, I believe, be a source of great and enduring pride to you and to all of us. So this concludes my last report as president. It has been an honor to serve. I would hope, in looking back, I can only promise that we did our best, and given the importance of this cause, I hope our best was good enough. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you. We now turn to the President of the System, President Kevin Rana.
Thank you, President Pruitt. And I just wanted to say, I think you all know this, but in the tough year that we've come through here, Chuck Pruitt has been just an incredible leader of this board and of the university. You could not have had a more stalwart, committed, engaged person at the helm. He was absolutely unstinting with his time and energy and intelligence in helping us to work our way through the family dispute and come out in a place that I think will set us up well for the future. So, sometimes the need for a leader coincides with that right person being there, and that happened this past year with Chuck Pruitt as the president of the board. So thank you. Well, this has been a busy and interesting time, and I'd like to give you all an update and a bit of perspective on some of the activities that have been going on. In our discussions yesterday, you heard that the 2011-13 biennial budget includes a proposal to reduce the UW System Administration operating budget by 25%. You also heard that there are several proposals under consideration that would provide new administrative and management flexibilities to the Board of Regents, flexibilities that would in turn be made available to each UW institution. We're at a pivotal point, I think, in the evolution of the UW system. These changes, when taken individually or in combination, are very significant. They require careful and strategic consideration, especially if we are to reshape UW system administration in a manner that preserves what is necessary and effective, sheds what is best done elsewhere or not at all, and considers the opportunities to better serve our core stakeholders, this board, the UW system, institutions, and all the people of Wisconsin. You may recall that at April's board meeting, I told you that I was calling for a President's Advisory Committee specifically to address these issues. And I'm pleased to inform you now that President Pruitt has agreed to chair this committee, with a little arm twisting from Vice President Spector, I might add. Other members of the board who have agreed to serve include Regent Jeff Bartell, Regent Judy Crane, and Regent Brent Smith. And several chancellors are represented on the committee: Chancellor Debbie Ford of UW-Parkside, Chancellor Tom Harden of UW-Green Bay, and Chancellor Rick Wells of UW-Oshkosh. The first meeting of the advisory committee has already been held. It was held on May 31st. Over the next few months, I'm specifically asking this group to do the following. Within the context of the UW System Administration mission statement, the proposed 25% reduction in base funding, and the new management flexibilities under consideration, to advise me on potential changes in the structure, in the function, and the support of system administration, including operations currently assigned to both system administration and system-wide accounts. While undertaking this task, I asked the committee that consideration be given to what the law requires the Board of Regents and system administration to do, and that our shared commitment to the fundamental values of the growth agenda and inclusive excellence be sustained. I plan to use the work and the recommendations of the advisory committee to inform and shape my thinking on the future role of system administration, and I will engage the Regents in further discussion of these issues before the end of the summer. So we'll be coming back to it pretty quickly. On another front, in early May, President Pruitt and I visited with members of Wisconsin's congressional delegation in Washington, D.C. The purpose of the visit was to draw attention to the inordinate impact that cuts to student financial aid and scientific research would have on our UW system, universities, and UW students. We asked the delegation, and we got to see either all of them or staff in all their offices. We asked them to support the Pell Grant program, which impacts nearly 40,000 UW system students and is the foundation for college affordability for low-income students in Wisconsin and around the nation. The suggested cutting of Pell Grants to the 2008-9 levels would result in fewer needy students being able to afford college at a time when investment in our nation's workforce is key to growing the nation's economy. The President's proposed budget request would freeze the maximum Pell Grant at $5,500 in 2011-12, while the budget bill passed by the U.S. House of Representatives would roll the maximum back to 2008-9 levels, a reduction which really could not come at a worse time for students and families in the economy. We also discussed concerns expressed by the Wisconsin Association of Independent Colleges and Universities, the technical college system, and the UW system regarding proposed administrative rules from the U.S. Department of Education that would establish for the first time ever a federal definition of the credit hour, would expand state authorization to operate requirements, and would establish a complaint process under which states would receive, review, and respond to complaints regarding post-secondary education. We continue to work with the other sectors of higher education in Wisconsin on these matters and with the federal government to try to fix some things in these rules which we think really would be intrusive and not very effective. We also thank the delegation for its strong support seeking a favorable interpretation from the Federal Department of Veterans Affairs about the relationship between the federal post-9/11 GI Bill and the Wisconsin GI Bill. That favorable opinion, if you will, that we got from the Federal Department of Veterans Affairs does say that veterans, our student veterans in Wisconsin, can use their federal benefits before they have to go to the Wisconsin benefits, which was the arrangement that we were in favor of. And by the way, all of the members of the Wisconsin congressional delegation in the Senate and the House signed on to a letter to the Federal Department of Veterans Affairs asking for that position, and we got it back very quickly from the department, so that was great. Another item. Earlier this week, the UW system held a leadership development workshop for department chairs. The workshop brought together academic department chairs from all the UW institutions. These department chairs are traditionally unsung, but really critical leaders for their institutions. I thought you might be interested in some of the workshop titles, such as Ambivalence, Ambiguity, and Aspirin, Embracing Your Role as an Academic Leader, or Chairing Between the Rock and the Hard Place, Difficult Conversations, Confrontational Meetings, and Challenging Personalities. I'd like to thank all of those from the UW system staff and from the American Council on Education with whom we partnered for this workshop, who devoted their time to organizing it, and to all the department chairs for their participation. We had a very good turnout. When we spoke originally with the chancellors about doing this, they felt strongly it was needed and would really be worthwhile. So this, I think, is another good example of the benefits of working together with colleagues from across the system on common challenges and opportunities. Speaking of opportunities, I just want to note here what you already sadly know, that Rebecca Martin, Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, will be leaving the University of Wisconsin system in July to accept a position with the U.S. Education Delivery Institute in Washington, D.C. But she will be at the July Regent meeting, and we'll have lots of nasty things to say about her then. Happily, as you also know, Mark Nook, Provost and Vice Chancellor at UW-Stevens Point, has agreed to serve in this capacity for 1 year effective August 1st. So we very much look forward to working with Mark in his new capacity. And in the coming months, we'll begin a national search to fill this key leadership post on a permanent basis. While we're on the subject of opportunities around the system, colleagues from our institutions have sent me another round of really interesting and heartening initiatives and accomplishments at their universities. Because and only because we have a long closed session scheduled today, I'm going to opt to send these descriptions out to all of you next week rather than trotting through them right now. But you'll really enjoy reading them. There's so much great stuff going on across our campuses. One last note before I turn it back over to President Pruitt. I think it's important to revisit part of our budget discussion yesterday for just a moment as it pertains to undocumented students. This is a very complex topic, and I worry that some people might misinterpret the discussion yesterday about changes in the law and how our universities and colleges will comply with those changes. In the last biennial budget, new statutory language was approved that lets certain undocumented Wisconsin residents pay in-state tuition at UW. In the current budget bill, that language is removed, meaning that undocumented students will again be charged non-resident tuition at our schools. It's our intent to comply fully with the letter and the spirit of this law if it is passed. To be clear, chancellors do not have unilateral authority to set tuition differently for certain students. Their financial aid offices do have a very limited pool of resources available to provide additional assistance, institutional financial aid, for a very small number of students who need more help to stay in school. As we've discussed previously, the number of students with documented financial need already exceeds the number of financial aid dollars available by a lot, and this situation will likely only get worse in the near future. Under questioning today or yesterday, our general counsel answered correctly, saying that chancellors do have authority to provide supplemental financial aid to needy students. Some people came away from that exchange with the impression that we would earmark those dollars in some way for undocumented students, and that's simply not the case. That kind of earmarking does not go on and will not. We'll continue to use those finite pools of institutional aid to help more low-income students stay in school, complete their UW degrees, and move into the workforce prepared to help Wisconsin businesses thrive. So with that, President Pruitt, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. We now move to the fun part of the morning, which is the presentation of the 2011 Teaching Excellence Awards. This morning we have some honored guests here, and to lead us in the awards presentation, let me turn things over to Regent Betty Womack, Chair of the Awards Selection Committee. Other members of the committee, in addition to Regent Womack, are Regents Bartell, Drew, and Menendez. Regent Womack.
Good morning to all of you. And again, I would also like to thank the Board of Regents, our leadership, as well as our chancellors, for your diligent efforts over the past 5 months. Regent Pruitt, you were a leader chosen for a time such as this, and we certainly do appreciate that. I was on my way in this morning, and I thought about a card that was given to me several years ago, and it said, "Some people dance in the rain while others just get wet." And thank you so much, sir, for dancing in the rain. Thank you. On behalf of the Board of Regents, it is my pleasure to welcome some distinguished guests this morning, the recipients of the 2011 Regents Teaching Excellence Awards. Joining them in the gallery today are their friends, their families, and their supporters. And we welcome all of you. The Regents Teaching Excellence Awards recognize and honor some of UW System's most outstanding teachers, departments, and programs. It's a welcome reminder of what a treasure we have in our faculty and administrative staff, those who bring the special dedication, creativity, and passion to their craft, and to whom we entrust the education and enlightenment of the citizens of the future, and it is indeed a treasure hunt. Writing in support of one of today's nominees, a colleague noted that this professor had a certain magic in the classroom, that he creatively inspired students not only to learn, but also to want to learn. The different ways, and as you're about to hear, I think all of our honorees today can be said to have that magic touch. We are honoring 3 award recipients today, 2 professors and 1 academic program. It's a big deal. This is the highest recognition bestowed by the UW system to members and the faculty and academic staff for outstanding career achievements in teaching. I'd like to thank several of my colleagues, Regent Jeff Bartell, Regent John Drew, who cannot be with us today, could very well be coming in shortly, and Regent Ed Many-Deeds. I appreciate the time they spent, their thoughtful participation and wise counsel. Deciding on the winners was difficult, but it was also a privilege to see up close the kind of outstanding talent that is found around the UW system. We were truly impressed. This year's winners are shining examples of the powerful impact that such excellent teachers can have on students' lives. Here to tell us more, my colleagues on the selection committee will introduce the winners, and then each award recipient will come and have an opportunity for some brief comments to the board. I'd also encourage you to read the profiles of our winners that have been placed in the Regents folders as well as in the Chancellors and Provost folders. I've seen our winners' full files, and I assure you that you will be impressed by the wealth of talent, dedication, and passion of these teachers. And on that note, I would like to introduce Regent Bartell, who will give out the first award. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Womack, and good morning. It's my privilege to present the first of our Regents Teaching Excellence Awards, and that award this morning goes to UW Green Bay's Ben and Joyce Rosenberg Professor of Human Development and Psychology, Dr. Regan Garung. Professor Garung, would you please stand? In fact, why don't you join me up here while I tell the audience a little more about you. As Regent Womack told you, there is a profile of him in your materials. As Professor Garung sees it, learning is something that rarely happens automatically. The learner has to work hard, and the teacher has to work hard. He adds that his goal as an educator is to make students realize that they can do better than what they think is their best, to exceed their own expectations, in other words. As a teacher, he has been variously described as intelligent, never compromising in the caliber of the material, quick-witted and humorous, and simply fascinating. Wouldn't we all like to be fascinating? Ever the scholar, his classes frequently employ innovative techniques and styles, and he regularly solicits and responds to student feedback. Another faculty member noted, "It is amazing to watch as a colleague as accomplished as Regan continue to stretch as a teacher and be the first person to want to try a new technique or critically evaluate his own performance." As Professor Garung is known for going the extra mile to connect with students, and to the amazement of others, he learns the names of all his students, even in lecture halls. And I remember as a student how scary that was. He likes to hold office hours in a campus coffee shop or the student union, so students are more likely to stop by. He emails every student who receives an A with a congratulatory note. He also emails any student who fails and invites them to begin looking for a job at the campus coffee shop. No, that was. He invites them to his office to talk about what happened. Along the way, Dr. Gurung has built a reputation not just as an outstanding teacher, but as an outstanding scholar. He is nationally known for his research and publications on teaching and pedagogy, and he has written a major text entitled Health Psychology, A Cultural Approach. All in all, for those who are familiar with Professor Gurung's top-notch work and his passion for teaching, this Regent Award will come as no surprise. Among his other honors, he previously received the UW Green Bay Founders Award for both excellence in teaching and excellence in scholarship. In 2009, he was named the Wisconsin Professor of the Year by the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching, and he is currently the president of the National Society for Teaching of Psychology. And he is also co-director of UWGB's Teaching Scholars Program. In nominating him, one colleague noted, "Students gush about how much they learn in his classes and how that learning changes their lives." And a student had this also to say, "There is an almost tangible energy in Dr. Gurung's classes that I have never encountered in any of my other classes. It is an intense and stimulating experience." Please join me in congratulating our first award winner, Professor Regent Gurung.
I've got to use some of those lines when I speak, too. This is a tremendous honor, tremendous. And especially when you mentioned the career achievement, I have to admit that it made me feel old. I'm told that's a small price to pay, so I'll take it. I have a simple message today that I'd like to share. I am proud to be a teacher, and I'm very proud to be a part of the UW system. That is what I feel at the core, and that's what keeps me going. Many academics, when you run into them outside school or sometimes inside school and you say, "What do you do?" Well, you'll often hear, "Well, I'm at so-and-so university," or "This is the research that I do." But how often do you hear academics saying, "I teach"? As simply as that, I teach. And that's something I'm proud of, the fact that I teach. And the fact that I teach gives me strength and gives me energy and really makes life a lot of fun. And I'll get to the fun part in a little bit. I think this enjoying life and being proud to teach came in handy this year. In many ways, 2011 has been the best of times and the worst of times. Whenever the state issues and changes to state workers' benefits came by, us educators heard a lot. There was a lot of flack from the person on the street. There were a lot of Wisconsin taxpayers who said some pretty mean things about us educators that was pretty hard to take. But what about the best of times? Now, yes, there was a Super Bowl in there, but that's not what I'm talking about. It was actually the best of times because those same troubles actually brought people together on our campuses like never before. Faculty, staff, students, we were one. And the solidarity, there was a true union of minds which was just absolutely wonderful to feel. Most importantly, though, it was the little things that happened. I remember leaving school one day, and a member of the janitorial staff stopped me, and he had this extremely pained expression on his face. And he said, "What do you think about all these bad things that are happening?" And I said, "Yep, it doesn't look good for us." And he said, "You know, you faculty work so hard. You all have achieved so much. The faculty at Green Bay, what great awards and what great research you all are all doing. What if this makes you all leave? What would our students do?" And I said, "You know, I think our students will be fine." But what really touched me was he said nothing about his own impending hardships. Nothing. His care was for the students. His focus was for the students. And I said, wow, every level of this university, we're thinking about the students. And that felt really good. And that gave me some more pride to be a teacher. I think it's really easy to get bogged down by the dark implications of budgetary changes. And while it's important for faculty to be active in letting our voices be heard in response to this situation, I don't think we should forget what we do. At the start of today, you nicely alluded to the keep your eye on the prize. And I think that's exactly the core. We need to keep our eye on the prize, to borrow John Coker's term. We've got to think about what we do and why we're here. We're here for the students. We're here for education because we believe that education improves life. And I believe that, and that gives me energy. I'm very buoyed by the work that all of you in this room do. I'm very buoyed by what the Office of Professional and Instructional Development, OPID, does. I salute what they do for faculty to make sure we keep educating. And I thank all of you for the work you do. That helps me know that I can focus on where I'm supposed to focus in the classroom, and that's what gives me strength. So for my peace of mind, I take pride in my teaching, and strive to do the best I can do both in the classroom and out. Now, pride in teaching is not always easy to develop or express. For some of us, openly expressing pride in teaching is not something easy to do. Many of us went to grad school and research one schools where saying that you wanted to teach a class got you frowns. Teaching was almost collateral damage to the researching life. So, if you care about teaching, what do you do? Well, I was lucky. I kept in touch with my undergraduate mentor, who was and is a passionate teacher, and who cultivated my own passion for teaching. And I think it's important for all of us to keep in mind our colleagues, to nurture the teachers inside, to help develop that teaching identity. It's easy to develop a research identity, but how do we nurture that teaching identity? How do we get people to be proud that they're teachers? And I think that's a great challenge. Again, your efforts, Board of Regents, and again, OPID, are critical in this endeavor. It's important to let budding academics and our junior colleagues know that good teaching is valued, and one should take pride in teaching. There are few awards for good teaching, and this is one of them, but it sure matters to every student who's the beneficiary of a passionate, hardworking teacher. Taking pride in what one does is important. And as I said, this holds especially for teaching. I was musing on this concept of pride, and of course it made me think about Vince Lombardi's biography, When Pride Still Mattered. And if you didn't know, that title was meant to be ironic. And there's a story behind that we need not get into. But Lombardi advocated taking pride in what one did and doing it to the best of one's capacity. To paraphrase Lombardi, teachers who can outline good pedagogy are a dime a dozen. The ones whose students learn, they get inside their students' heads and motivate. Motivate. Not put stuff in there, but motivate them to learn. I'm proud to know good teachers, always looking for ways to improve their teaching. I'm proud to know teachers who share their successes and help grapple with teaching conundrums. And I'm proud to be a member of a university and a department that values and fosters all of these attributes. When University of State budget woes get me down, when poor student writing, glimmers of entitlement, veins of negligence, or the patina of disrespect make teaching more of a Herculean endeavor, I'm almost easily rejuvenated by thinking of all the students whose lives have been changed for the better by thoughtful, hardworking teachers, who wear their personal hardships to do the best jobs they can do, whether adequately compensated for it or not. I'm well aware that I'm in a system and that the campus, mine in particular, abounds with high-caliber, passionate teachers. So I'm grateful and humbled to be honored with this award. I'm thankful to be surrounded by great colleagues and many hardworking students who help me enjoy what I do. While I receive this award as an individual, this recognition salutes all those who make me the teacher I am. In particular, the faculty in Human Development and Psychology at UW-Green Bay, my supportive dean, Scott Furlong, who's here, and Fergus Hughes, the dean before him, the administration, my colleagues and students at UW-Green Bay, the UW system of OPID, and my family, who puts up with my late hours. They let my work be as fun as a hobby. We were driving around town the other day. My son's 5 years old, and he's surprising us by how much he can read. So we were driving by Hobby Lobby, and he says, and he points it out. He says, "Hey, Mom, or Dad, what's a hobby?" So I started by saying, A hobby is something fun to do. And he said, but Dad, your work is fun too. And I said, you got it, son. That's the way to do it. This has been a difficult year for Wisconsin educators, and this award is a wonderful opportunity for us all to think about what most of us faculty really care about, teaching students, and to celebrate the efforts that goes into education. I am proud to be a teacher and a member of the UW system, and yes, pride still matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Garang. It is my pleasure to, in Regent Drew's stead today, to introduce our second 2011 Regents Teaching Excellence Award recipient, and that is Dr. Craig Berg. Dr. Berg is Professor of Curriculum and Instruction in the School of Education at UW-Milwaukee. Professor Berg started out teaching in the late 1970s at a small school in North Dakota. After about 6 years, he decided he didn't know enough about teaching, so he went back to school at the University of Iowa. Looking back at that time, he quotes, "I learned then what is still reinforced every single day, that highly effective teachers get their way through practice, reflection, time, feedback from students, feedback from colleagues, and a whole bunch of energy and dedication toward that end." It's been more than 2 decades since, as a member of UW-Milwaukee's faculty, he has focused his considerable energies on building a top-notch science teaching preparation program. In fact, he is the developer and the director of a rigorous and highly respected Milwaukee area collaborative science teacher education program, which is known as MaxStep. Someone who has observed the program's success describes it like this: "I have worked with many of Dr. Berg's student teachers over the past decade and can contest to the positive impact he has had on the program. His student teachers come into my classroom with a strong background in learning theory and as well as hands-on practical strategies on how to teach students. My district has been so impressed by the performance of Dr. Berg's student teachers that they have hired several of them. An ardent advocate for improving the lives of urban children and increasing their chances for success, Dr. Berg has invested thousands of hours of professional development contact time with Milwaukee public school teachers and the surrounding districts." A former student and now a teacher in Milwaukee Public Schools says this: "He listens and values the day-to-day struggles teachers encounter by providing us with materials, encouragement, and support to do what we need to do. He extracts star quality by creating a vehicle for teachers to reflect and to evaluate their choices on a daily basis." As recipient of the 2007 Wisconsin Society of Science Teacher Excellence Award, Professor Berg has also developed approximately 60 new courses for the UW Curriculum and Instruction Department and has initiated and completely revamped how the department assesses its own teaching. I'd consider that a bold move. He regularly collaborates across campuses with other departments, crafting and submitting teacher improvement grants. He's obviously pretty good at it. To date, the 41 grants he has worked on have netted $4 million in funding for this university system. Getting back to his students, their reviews are consistently glowing. They include comments like he was a great model for how a teacher can create excitement about the content and students. I would enthusiastically take another course from Craig, learn things I've never thought I knew or needed to know or learn before about teaching. Here to say a few words about how, on his own behalf, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Professor Craig Berg. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good morning. Yahoo! Regents, this is so awesome that you recognize teaching. And thank you so much for taking the time and energy to wade through all the nominations. Thanks to my campus committee at UW-Milwaukee, my provost, Provost Britz, my chancellor, Chancellor Michael Lovell, and thank you, Regents, for endorsing him as our new leader. What an awesome leader we have here now. I am so pleased and so honored and so thrilled to receive this award. And although you know we're expected at this university to be highly productive in terms of scholarship and writing grants and publications and service, teaching is still the central core of what I want to do and what I'm expected to do. It's the most important part of me being a faculty member at UW-Milwaukee. And a long time ago, I decided I have one of the world's greatest jobs. I really believe that. I get to direct and teach in a grade 6 through 12 science teacher prep program. And one of the great joys of my life is getting to help others become more effective teachers, better teachers for children. I have a burning desire to do this, to be an effective teacher myself and to help others. And so this is a great job, but it wasn't always a burning desire. So let me take you back 38 years. In my high school year, 1973, I had a teacher of my own who said, Craig, out of the blue, Craig, you should be a teacher. And I don't know if we can print or say what my response was, but it went something like this: you are out of your mind. I paraphrase greatly. Well, I went off to college at North Dakota State University, and 5 years later, I graduated with a biology and an education degree. And then I went off and took that job at a small town in North Dakota, taught for 6 years, and again, you said, I realized I didn't know enough about teaching. So I went back to school, got a master's and a PhD in science ed, and came to Milwaukee to test out this job. So 22 years later, I guess the job has worked out. I went from assistant to associate with tenure to full professor, but this recognition today, to me, beats all of that. It's the highlight of my career at this point. There's a line from a poem that goes back to the 1500s, and part of the poem says, "No man is an island." This recognition for teaching that I receive, it's important to share this with the many, many people who have affected me, who have contributed to my growth as a teaching. My mentor back at North Dakota State University, my professors at Iowa, who are world-class science educators, to the many students that have gone through my programs, to my colleagues, and to the area teachers that I get to work with on a daily basis. I'm in and out of schools every week and on a daily basis. And especially to my wife, Kathleen, who is herself a world-class urban science teacher. I share this with all of them. Most of the things I know came from these folks. So a huge thank you to all these people who helped shape who I am today. I have 2 quick points about teaching. And this pertains to teachers in the K-12 system who have recently taken quite a beating with regard to public perception and teaching. Teaching is so complex. It's so much more than the average person realizes. And I want to compare it to a physician. A physician gets to treat one person at a time. And so they see about 4 or 5 people per hour. But imagine if that doctor went to a waiting room with 30 people, and we have someone with a sprained ankle, a rash, the flu, a cold, diabetes, carpal tunnel, etc. All the ailments that you might expect in sitting in the waiting room. And that physician had to treat all these people at the same time. It would be so easy if that doctor could walk into the waiting room and prescribe Aspirin, just take aspirin and we're done with you. And treat them all as if they were alike. But that's simply ridiculous, as we know. But let's compare a doctor to being a teacher. In the typical teacher's classroom, they have students with all sorts of ailments and difficulties that they have to overcome in order to teach them something. Students with cognitive disorders, behavioral disorders, students with ADD, ADHD, and the labels go on. And other assorted learning disabilities. Students who are English language learners, students who vary widely in neurological development, students who vary from 4th to 9th grade reading levels in the same classrooms. And then on top of that, you have students who have changed schools 3 times in the same year because the family has moved 3 times. And you have students who are not sure where they're getting their next meal from or where they're going to sleep that night. This is a typical urban classroom. Complex, challenging, and it would be so easy if we could walk into class and prescribe aspirin for all and teach the class as if each child were the same, but that would also be ridiculous. And that's why teaching is so incredibly complex. Albert Einstein had this interesting little statement. He said, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Kind of cute. I only heard that a few weeks ago. Teachers who have a really positive impact on their students know that each student is an individual with unique qualities. And if you try to teach a class of students if they were all alike, simply one homogeneous group, or herd, if you will, you are bound to fail. It is, if there's one thing we know about effective teaching, it is we must approach teaching from this perspective of teaching individuals. We have to get to know our students, their individual and unique talents and gifts, and then we realize what expectations fit that student and we can make some progress. My second quick related point is this. With regard to the quality of teachers and producing high-quality teachers, I've worked here for 22 years to try to develop a program that produces high-quality teachers. My goal is world-class teachers, because that's what teachers' programs should be producing. But I see the teacher ed system, the teacher producing systems eroding. When you look around, you'll find all sorts of alternative teacher certification programs. A lot of these come in from national levels and come into the state. Some of these programs have recognizable names, and I won't name any of them. But I think of alternative as an option for getting you to the desired endpoint. The desired endpoint should be highly effective teachers, powerful teachers. But when I examine these programs, I most often find quick and pathetic 4-week summer programs that put teachers into classrooms after 4 weeks in September as a classroom teacher, with little preparation to teach. And at a state level and a system level, we need to examine and challenge these programs. Our children deserve better. They deserve the best that we can possibly provide them, given the complexity and challenges that exist. Would you go to a doctor who went through an alternative 4-week medical program? Probably not. Would you go to a dentist for a root canal if they went through an alternative 4-week dental program? Probably not. I know I wouldn't. Of course not. We wouldn't. Many alternative cert programs are not preparing high-quality teachers, and our children deserve better. We need to hold our programs to the highest standard and expect only the best to be placed in classrooms. So at a state level and a regent level, I hope we can work on this. In closing, I want to reiterate that I'm extremely pleased and very honored to receive this award. I want to emphasize again, though, that I'm sharing this with all the people that I worked with, the students, the faculty, my mentors, who have contributed so much to my being able to be a good, hopefully effective teacher at this point in my life. I'm not done yet. I hope to continue to improve as I continue in our great campus at UW-Milwaukee. So thank you to this UW system, Regents, and I appreciate this award tremendously. Thank you.
Good morning. The 2011 Regents Teaching Excellence Award for a department or program is presented this year to the University of Wisconsin Green Bay Professional Program in Education. represented here today by its chair, Timothy Kaufman. Professor Kaufman is here. Would you please stand, sir? Thank you. The professional program in education has long been one of the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay's most heavily enrolled programs. More than 500 students are either majors, pre-majors, or candidates for teaching certification in elementary education or are pursuing disciplinary majors and certification in secondary education. This program that is firmly grounded in University of Wisconsin-Green Bay's campus-wide commitment to connecting learning to life, here there is a real emphasis on helping students see the big picture and break through barriers to find practical solutions. To that end, students are provided with rich and varied opportunities to bring the ideas and concepts of effective education to life in relevant real-world context, working with children and families from different ethnic, cultural, and economic groups, as well as children with exceptional educational needs. One graduate, now a middle school assistant principal in the Fox Valley, describes the program with his own version of the 3 R's: rigor, relevance, and relationships. He says, quote, UW Green Bay Education Department's faculty challenges students to face a rigorous curriculum with support of exceptional instructional practices, brings relevance to coursework through innovative partnerships with the community, and works hard to build relationships and connect with individual students, because that, in the end, is what allows for educators to challenge others to think more deeply and push themselves further. The faculty strives to make teaching a public and collaborative activity. Many courses are taught using a co-teaching approach in the field or combined as a sequence of courses directed by professional teams. The professional program in education has also developed important and mutually beneficial relationships and partnerships in Green Bay and the surrounding areas. One example is the program's involvement with Literacy Green Bay, where students have the opportunity to work with second language learners in area schools and immigrant parents. The program is committed to developing teachers with the ability to identify and meet the needs of diverse learners. One graduate noted that the program spurred her interest in taking on greater leadership roles within her school and district. The program, she said, quote, not only looks at the qualities of a good teacher, but it also motivates students to stretch themselves and contribute beyond the standard workday. Among this department's initiatives is one you probably heard about. It's the nationally recognized Future Phoenix Mentoring Program. This program encourages at-risk youngsters, and this is important, to graduate from high school and pursue a college education. The Future Phoenix program has received numerous awards, including recognition as a Wisconsin Program of Distinction, given by the Department of Public Instruction. This program has also partnered with tribal elders in the state to create a Center for First Nations Studies. This is designed to help future educators, and this is extremely needed in the state, I might add, to be better prepared to teach all youth about the history, the culture, and the sovereignty and the contemporary issues of the indigenous people of Turtle Island. Turtle Island is a term used by many of the woodland cultures to describe the North American continent, the entire Canada, United States, and Mexico. That's important. The program's commitment to excellence is ultimately reflected in the high quality of teachers it produces, those dedicated educators who directly impact the lives of countless students in K-12 settings throughout northeastern Wisconsin. It is my pleasure to present this year's Regent Award for Teaching Excellence to Dr. Timothy Kaufman on behalf of the University of Wisconsin Professional Program in Education.
On behalf of the entire faculty, staff, and students of the Professional Program in Education at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay, I'd like to thank Regent Menadides and also members of the Board of Regents. Also, Regent Betty Womack and members of the Regent Teaching Excellence Awards. Thank you for this great honor. I'd also like to recognize and thank Regent Judy Crane for her continued support to our program, university, and community. This is a wonderful honor. I'd like to thank Chancellor Thomas Harden and Provost Julia Wallace for their past and continued support in helping us prepare the teachers of tomorrow. I'm actually joined today to accept this award by several members of our faculty. Dr. James Coates, Dr. Paul Lohr, and Dr. Susan Cooper. Other members who were not able to attend today's ceremony include Dr. Scott Ashman, Dr. Linda Tabers-Kwok, Dr. Mark Keene, Dr. Steve Kimball, Dr. Karen Llewellyn, Karen Bircher, Art Lacey, Lynn Kimball, Amy Bartlemy, Kim Desitel, and my co-director of the Center for First Nation Studies, Dr. Lisa Poupart. This is truly a group effort, so I'd be remiss if we left any of those fine individuals out. Our vision and commitment in the professional program in education is to produce the teachers of tomorrow. Really the greatest profession in the world. Professionals that are not only well prepared but highly desired by schools and districts. Practitioners who are comfortable and nimble in diverse settings and are able to adapt and successfully serve the needs of young learners, especially those who are at risk or underserved. And Regent Menadides touched on some of those things that we're proud of, some of those programs. It's through some of these programs that were mentioned, like our partnership program with area schools that helps us prepare quality educators, along with our nationally recognized, of course, Future Phoenix program that really opens doors for underserved populations and does as much for training teachers as it does for creating those opportunities for young learners. We also are proud of some of our study abroad programs, including our sites in Cuernavaca, Mexico, and the work Dr. Lohr has done in Thailand, which help us prepare students, pre-service teachers to serve the populations within our area. And of course, our work with First Nation Studies Education Center, we feel very lucky to have established that and look forward to that. All of these things really help us accomplish our vision and commitment to preparing the teachers of tomorrow. Of course, we pride ourselves as an organization of being focused on relationships. That's really what we're all about. So none of what we do would be possible without our work with our PK-12 partners, the teachers, administrators, and staff that work to help us prepare the teachers of tomorrow. So we certainly share this award with them and would like to thank them. I'm a person of few words, so we are very honored to achieve this award, and I know I speak for our entire faculty, staff, in thanking you deeply for this award. It's quite an honor.
Thank you, Regent Womack, and thank you to the Regent Selection Committee, and congratulations. A remarkable group, and we really do appreciate you, all you do, and we appreciate you joining us today to give us a moment to honor that work. We will now move to the report of the Capital Planning and Budget Committee. I will call upon Regent Bartel to present the report of that committee. Regent Bartel.
Thank you, President Pruitt. The committee met yesterday, and we began the meeting with a presentation by UW-Milwaukee, which I think, and we held that meeting, that portion of the meeting, with the Budget Committee as well. So I think that Regent Smith will report on that. Our committee then proceeded to take up a number of resolutions, which I am now going to present as consent agenda items. Resolution 1.3.C requests authority to release a 3/4 acre parcel of land from UW-Barron County lease, giving that back to Barron County. The parcel was originally part of a campus area, but is no longer needed, and it is being released from the lease that we have with Barron County. Resolution 1.3.D from UW-Madison requests authority to seek a waiver from the Building Commission to allow selection through an RFP process to get a construction manager at risk for the UW-Madison Badger Performance Center project. This is a project, you may recall, that will remodel existing space and construct new space within the McLean Center and Camp Randall Stadium to house certain programs for the Division of Intercollegiate Athletics. And subject to enumeration by the legislature, work will be bid and sequenced in 3 phases that will coordinate with the 2012 and 13 fall football seasons, which is one of the reasons why, because of the complicated nature of this project and the timing of it, it's necessary to manage this construction very carefully. Resolution 1.3.E is again brought by UW-Madison and contingent upon enumeration. Requests authority to seek a waiver to allow single prime bidding for the University Ridge All Seasons Golf Practice Facility project and to construct the project. It's an estimated cost of $2.8 million, entirely gift funded. And this includes a $300,000 budget increase to allow adequate water supply to be provided. Resolution 1.3.F is brought by UW-Whitewater and contingent upon enumeration in the 2011-13 capital budget. It will construct Carlson Hall renovation project. It's a very creative way to make use of a 1967 building and provide a home for the letters and science faculty in Whitewater. It's an estimated cost of $17 million, general fund supported borrowing. And as I mentioned, it is included in our 11-13 capital budget, which we hope and expect to be enumerated very soon. Resolution 1.3.G requests authority to construct 7 all-agency maintenance and repair projects at 5 of our institutions, total of which is $6.5 million. One of these interesting projects will implement some energy conservation measures at 6 facilities at UW Marathon. Now, this is one of the colleges, of course, and typically we don't have anything to do with the real estate or buildings at the colleges. Those are typically owned by the county, but this is an energy-saving measure which will save us a lot of money on utilities, and so that it impacts our operations. These 5 resolutions were passed unanimously by the committee, and I now move approval of resolutions 1.3.C, D, E, F, and G.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there a request to remove any item from the consent agenda? If not, May I ask for a vote? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Those are agreed to. Regent Bartel.
Associate Vice President David Miller then reported to us that the Building Commission in its April and May meetings approved about $14 million of projects for UW system. The funding breaks down $1 million in general support funds supported borrowing, $5 million of program revenue, and $8 million of gift funds. He also reported that at the April Building Commission meeting, the governor presented the 2010 Design and Construction Awards, which recognize excellence in state building projects. And as you know, the UW system builds the most of state projects. The award for excellence in architecture design was presented to Workshop Architects of Milwaukee for the UW Superior Yellow Jacket Union project at UW Superior, and those of us who've been up there recognize that as a fantastic student union. The Excellence in Engineering Design Award was given to Ayers and Associates of Eau Claire for the Lower Campus Steam Loop project at UW-Eau Claire. I don't think that I've seen that project, the steam loop, but I understand it works pretty well. It loops the steam. And the Excellence in Sustainable Design Award was presented to Key Architecture, Madison, for the UW Oshkosh-Elmwood Center remodeling project. And we congratulate all of those firms for those awards. Mr. Miller reported that our 2011-13 capital budget was passed by the Joint Finance Committee as recommended by the State Building Commission. And that budget fully funds our biennial request, which is good news for us, and maintains the UW system 6-year physical development plan. Then the committee convened in closed session, and those subjects that we took up will be addressed in our Regents closed session later. And this concludes the report of the Capital Planning and Budget Committee, Mr. President.
Thank you, Regent Bartel. I will now call on Regent Crane to present the report of the Education Committee.
The Education Committee met yesterday afternoon and had our usual 3-hour meeting. And there were several major items which I am going to summarize and then present as separate motions for the full board's action. They actually could be on a consent agenda, but I prefer to put those that have had substantial discussion, I'd like to offer those separately. The first of those was the UW College's revised mission and BAAS degree. And you may remember that a year ago the board heard the first readings of the UW College's revised mission and the proposed Bachelor of Applied Arts and Sciences degree. Yesterday, both the revised mission and the degree came back before the Education Committee for second readings. We had substantial discussion. Senior Vice President Martin provided background for us on the long process, and it has been, beginning 3 years ago, by which the degree proposal was entitled and then allowed to come before us for authorization. Rebecca Martin made clear that throughout the process, the UW system held the UW colleges to a greater standard of review that would normally be the case for new degree programs. And this was appropriate because the authorization of this degree would entail a fundamental rethinking of the mission of one of these system's key institutions. Provost Greg Lampe then described the actual degree, which was developed with input from critical stakeholders, including those both internal and external to the colleges. The BAAS allows place-bound, underserved adult learners to obtain a bachelor's degree and contribute to local workplace and community needs while retaining the UW College's traditional transfer mission. The revised mission for the UW Colleges spells that out, reinforcing the commitment to offering the first 2 years of a liberal arts general education while specifying the additional offering of a single baccalaureate degree that meets local and individual needs. The BAAS is a degree completion program. It builds on AAC&U's LEAP principles, and it will be granted by the UW colleges. It will be offered at 6 of the UW college campuses in partnership with 6 comprehensives in their service areas, and that list is in your materials. In response to our question that was asked, we are told that this is a fixed number as specified in the resolution and that any expansion after the first 5 years would require board approval. We were very impressed with the degree proposal and the work that had gone into it and approved both the revised mission and the BAAS degree unanimously in the committee. And so I would like to move for your approval Resolution 11B1, approving the revised mission of the University of Wisconsin Colleges. And I think I can do this in one motion. Also moving for your approval, Resolution 11B2, authorizing the implementation of the Bachelor of Applied Arts and Sciences to be offered regionally on 6 of the 13 UW college campuses and in partnership with 6 UW system comprehensive universities. I so move.
So moved. Is there a second? Those have been moved and seconded. Is there any desire to remove either of those 2 items and consider them separately? If not, is there any discussion on this motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are agreed to. Regent Crane.
This is a significant moment, and congratulations to the colleges and all who were part of making this happen. I now would like to bring forward the revised UW system transfer policy. The committee heard 3 interrelated presentations on the UW system's transfer practices and policy, culminating in a unanimous committee approval of the revised UW system undergraduate transfer policy. Associate Vice President Heather Kim provided an overview of UW system data on undergraduate transfers. Senior Vice President Martin presented the findings of the Wisconsin Transfer Equity Study, a collaboration among the UW system, the Wisconsin Technical College system, and the Center for Urban Education at USC, our partners in the Equity Scorecard project. The Wisconsin Transfer Equity Study yielded some fascinating and difficult data on the success rates or lack thereof for transfer students of color. The study also resulted in a set of recommendations, several of which have already been or are being implemented. That led us into hearing a report from Associate Vice President Larry Rubin on the key changes in the UW system's revised undergraduate transfer policy. The overview of these changes is in your Regent materials, as are the full policy revisions, which were quite extensive. The most contentious change came in the removal of the cap on the number of general education credits that students could transfer from the tech colleges to UW institutions. The overarching principle is that UW institutions and their faculties will still determine how many and which courses and credits are accepted for transfer. There was, for the most part, a real consensus on the revised policy by our campuses, and we heard support from the provosts at several of our 4-year campuses. The exception is the UW colleges, and Provost Lampe read a statement opposing the revised policy. We seriously discussed and considered those issues, after considerable discussion, but with agreement, the committee appropriately felt that it is appropriate to bring to the board the approval of Resolution 11C3, endorsing the revisions to Academic Information Series 6.0, 6.1, and 6.2, the UW system's policies on undergraduate transfer, and I would now so move.
It's been moved and seconded, 11C3. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is agreed to.
I want to thank all who were part of both the preparation of these changes and also the very, very thoughtful discussion that took place on the part of all involved. And one more point on that transfer, the UW system policy contained in the revised 6.0 is distinct from the Board of Regents policy, and so that will come later. In our other business, the committee heard an exciting presentation from UW-Milwaukee Interim Provost Johannes Fritz and Vice Provost for International Education Patrice Petro, describing strategic initiatives on UWM's digital future and internationalization, and they were great reports. And then, these are Rebecca Karoff's words, the penultimate report of Senior Vice President Rebecca Martin. And we were very glad that it was only the penultimate. The report included the presentation by the UW colleges and UW Extension of their outstanding inclusive excellence framework, an inspiring model of how this work can be done across not only one but two distinct yet intertwined institutions, and very diverse institutions. It was very interesting. A brief report on the cumbersome new federal program integrity regulations and how the UW system is responding to them, and the committee's approval of the 2011 tenure and promotion report. As you know, this report is on our agenda every June, and our action becomes the final step in the tenure process for UW system faculty. It's very inspiring to just read through those actions that were taken on our campuses. And we will now make that a part of our consent agenda with congratulations to all the faculty members who have earned that distinction. So, in the consent agenda, the minutes from the April 7th, 2011 meeting, and Resolution 11A2 approving the 2011-12 proffer from the Vilas Trust estate. We also had discussion about that last month. Resolution 11A3 authorizing implementation of the online Bachelor of Professional Studies in Organizational Leadership and Communication at UW-Eau Claire. Resolution 11A4, authorizing implementation of the Bachelor of Business Administration in International Business at UW-Eau Claire. Resolution 11A5, authorization implementation of the Bachelor of Arts in Japanese Studies at UW-Oshkosh and UW-Whitewater. Resolution 11A6, authorizing implementation of the collaborative online Bachelor of Science in Health and Wellness Management at UW-La Crosse, UW River Falls, UW Stevens Point, and UW Superior. Resolution 11A7, authorizing implementation of the online Master of Science in Organizational Leadership at UW-Platteville. Resolution 11A8, authorizing implementation of the online Master of Science in Integrated Supply Chain Management at UW-Platteville. Resolution 11A9, authorizing implementation of the online Master of Science in Distance Education Leadership at UW-Platteville. Resolution 11D, authorizing the Secretary of the Board of Regents to remove from the Regent policy documents RPD 14.1, non-discrimination in oratorical contests. You can read about that in your materials if you want. And Resolution 11F1, approving the 2011 report on faculty promotions, tenure designations, and other changes of status. Those were all very important programs that I listed, and you can read about them in your materials as well. I move the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Second. Is there a request to remove any item from the consent agenda? Is there any discussion on any items on the consent agenda? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are agreed to.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Regent Crane. I will call upon Regent Smith to present the report of the Business, Finance, and Audit Committee. Regent Smith.
Thank you, President Pruitt. As Regent Bartel noted, the two committees met together first to hear from Christy Brown, the Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administrative Affairs, on UW-Milwaukee Master Plan initiatives. Implementation begins. Her presentation focused on 5 major projects: the Northwest Quadrant, which increases space on campus by 20%, the School of Public Health, the School of Freshwater Science, the Kenwood Interdisciplinary Research Complex, and the UWM Innovation Park, many of which we heard about yesterday morning as well. Debbie Durkin provided an overview of the 2010 annual report for the Wisconsin Small Business Advancement Program, otherwise known as WSCAP. The program came about as part of the Core Jobs Act and was appropriated funding with an amount of $2 million. The purpose of the program is to connect the needs of small businesses in the state of Wisconsin to the expertise of faculty at the comprehensive universities and to create jobs along the way. Several speakers talked about the importance of partnership between the university and small businesses to grow jobs in the state of Wisconsin and the success, indeed, of one of those projects. Chris Andrews, who's the Assistant Vice President for Federal Relations, presented a summary of federal priorities for UW system institutions in the coming fiscal year. You have this in the materials, but Chris also provided a contextual background of the increased federal funding to all UW system universities over the past 10 years. While UW-Madison has increased an average of 10% per year, all others have increased an average of 7% per year. So it's been quite an increase, quite a success story for the last decade. We also heard a report on program integrity regulations, as did the Education Committee. Paige Reed, our senior legal counsel, presented an overview of recent regulations issued by the U.S. Department of Education. These regulations are expected to have wide-ranging impact on institutions of higher learning. The goals of the program integrity regulations are to address some of the recruitment practices on the part of some for-profit institutions, and particularly in the areas of distance education and compliance requirements to retain student aid eligibility. We considered or turned our attention to the delegation of authority from the UW System President to UW Chancellors to appoint and set the salary of UW College's interim deans, the state geologist, the director of the state laboratory of hygiene, and the director of Psychiatric Institute, and the state cartographer. I'm not sure what the state cartographer does, but we have given that authority from the UW System President to the UW Chancellors. The committee also approved the delegation of additional authorities from UW System President to UW Chancellors, including the approval of named professorships, the granting of unpaid non-medical leaves of absence extending for longer than 5 years, and that such extended leaves of absence would be reported to the board upon request rather than on an annual report. Frida Harris presented, I think what you heard a little bit in the morning, on the distribution of state-mandated budget cuts based on the latest information available from the state budget process. We approved a clinical trial agreement between UW-Madison and Pharmacyclics, Inc. Vice President Durkin reported the gift grant and contract awards through the third quarter of this fiscal year. Total awards were nearly $1.2 billion, a decrease of $82 million from the prior year. Finally, we heard our regular report from Vice President Morgan on the current status of the UW System Human Resource System project. He reported that Go Live was successful, but as with any other major IT system, there are some challenges to be dealt with. Most importantly, the project remains on time and within budget. And the last resolution was one the committee approved the $5.2 million annual human resource system budget for the fiscal year 2012. On behalf of Business, Finance, and Audit, I now move the adoption of Resolution 12C, which is a delegation of unclassified personnel flexibilities permitted under RPD 66. Resolution 12D3, the approval of UW-Madison contractual agreement with Pharmacyclics. And Resolution 12E2, the approval of fiscal year 2012 Human Resource System Implementation Budget.
Is there a second? Is there a request to remove any item from the consent agenda? Is there any discussion on any item in the consent agenda? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Those are agreed to.
That concludes my report, President Pruitt.
Thank you, Regent Smith. We now move to a bittersweet moment, always, in Regents meetings, because we are going to say farewell to two Regents, and we are obviously going to wish them the best in all their future endeavors. To present a resolution of appreciation to Regent Emerita Jessica Schwallenberg, I would like to call on Regent Judy Crane. Regent Crane?
Jessica, where are you?
Here she is. There she is.
Resolution in recognition of Jessica Schwallenberg's service on the Board of Regents. After a competitive application and interview process, Jessica was selected as a student regent about a year ago, filling the position designated for a non-traditional student. She had just finished her first 2 years at one of our two-year colleges, UW-Milwaukee, and she was about to become a psychology student at our host university, UWM. I appreciated everything about Jessica from the start. She was obviously going to be a thoughtful and contributing regent, and she approached her job with serious commitment. She was not afraid to ask questions, and she'd obviously read everything before the meeting. And when she had carefully considered the issues, she was very willing to speak. And believe me, anyone who watches this board at work knows that breaking into the discussion of the Board of Regents, all of whom like to talk, is no easy matter. When I was first here, I spent a lot of time strategizing as to just when I would break in and claim the floor when I had something to say. Jessica quickly learned how to get into the discussion, and she was thoughtful and effective. She did a responsible job in representing student opinions and the probable impact of our decisions on the great variety of students in our UW campuses. She knows that there is a wide diversity among our students, and she gave us that perspective. It mattered. I want Jessica to know that we are very sorry that her term was cut short prematurely. She was entitled to serve a full student term on the Board of Regents, and it was very unfortunately cut short, and we have greatly missed her contributions. We have been less than a whole without her. But I have full confidence that Jessica Schwalling will be heard from in all that she does in the future. She is a doer who is not afraid to extend her horizons and to make a difference for herself, for her wonderful little son, and for the world around her. Jessica clearly knows the meaning of service, and I believe this is the purpose of education. We need educated, principled people like you, Jessica. And as an aging feminist, maybe aged feminist, may I say that we need strong women like you. I am proud to have been your colleague. We wish you all success as you continue your studies and make your mark in whatever paths you choose. We will be rooting for you. Thank you. And now let me read the resolution. Whereas Jessica Schwallenberg served as a dedicated student representative on the University of Wisconsin System Board of Regents from May 2010 until January 2011. And whereas Jessica drew upon her experience as a returning student to give voice to the unique needs of the growing non-traditional student population in the UW system. And whereas Jessica shared her passion for maintaining high-caliber higher education opportunities to serve all Wisconsin families, championing this idea through her service on the Regents Education Committee. And whereas Jessica was an active member of the UW-Milwaukee community, serving as student ambassador, orientation leader, tutor, and pre-college mentor, crediting her mentoring experiences in particular for helping her work more effectively with her student of color peers. And whereas Jessica is a proud alumna of UW-Milwaukee, having earned her associate's degree with honors in spring 2010, and is now pursuing her bachelor's degree in psychology at UW-Milwaukee. And whereas Jessica used to full advantage her academic credentials, life experience, and commitment to the UW system to act as a responsible and thoughtful steward of the state's public higher education system, and in addition, in serving as a strong role model for both her son and fellow students who decide to continue their education. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System commends Jessica Schwallenberg for her exemplary service on behalf of the UW system and the citizens of Wisconsin, and wishes her every success in the future.
I was given a chance to say a few words, and I told myself I wasn't going to cry, and I'll try to keep that promise. I think you're too kind. When I was just getting my start at the University of Wisconsin-Waukesha, I was a very intimidated returning adult student. I felt quite new and possibly misplaced by my years spent out of school. I distinctly remember saying in an interview to work in student services that I wanted to learn everything I could about how the campus machine works in order to cope with my beginner's anxiety. Over the course of my 2 years there, that driving force evolved from the anxiety of a new student to the curiosity of a dedicated and appreciative one. But reasons aside, I sure got what I was looking for. I can't say that I knew what I was getting myself into when I was applying for this most honored position, but I can say that I have been truly privileged to have spent the greater part of this last year as a student regent of the UW system. I have learned quite a few things and reinforced a few others, although it wouldn't be fair or proper to tell you which lessons were which, wink wink. Joking aside, I have deeply enjoyed learning about the intricacies of managing such a unique and powerful machine as the UW system. The unification of the 13 freshman and sophomore campuses with the 13 comprehensive campuses, I feel provides a well-spread root system that not only educates our state residents and more, but serves our state with the connection and ability to grow and innovate. And I think that as somewhat biased, or does it say blessed, individuals, that we'd all agree that the UW plays a vital role in moving our state forward, as our state motto both boasts and instructs. I will be forever grateful for the inspiration I found in working among such an impressive group of leaders. One of the first among these individuals to encourage me was the former Chancellor, David Wilson, who told me that the greatness and the opportunity that laid before me was ingrained in the great leadership that I would encounter in my kept company and soon learn to practice myself. Wow, I couldn't truly appreciate the magnitude of that message a year ago. But I feel blessed to tell you that I now understand a bit more. Thank you. You ought to know that you have played an integral part in my personal growth, for with you I was given the opportunity to practice using my voice in public forum and received much useful and, to my delight, much positive feedback. I have profoundly appreciated the opportunities to use my voice as an individual, a student, a representative, and a regent. As a student and a representative of students, I hope that my voice carried out the intended purpose of bringing the unique and varied needs of our non-traditional students to light and helping my fellow regents to understand the nuance involved in the needs of these students. As a regent, I often found it challenging and always found it stimulating to be painting the big picture with the allotted supplies and keeping everyone in mind. And as an individual, I say, if I can't handle running my household after that, I don't know what. But I digress. As an individual, I feel such gratitude for my experiences, opportunities, and many friends that I have found through my service to this UW system and this Board of Regents. By now, it should be fairly easy to see why I feel so honored to have had this amazing opportunity. That is why it is with a very heavy heart that I learned that my service must end prematurely due to a divisive political climate and my apparently untimely appointment amidst it. A great contrast formed in between the grandeur of my experience with the board and the way that the ending for me was so abrupt and absolute. I had a great difficulty in coming to terms with this news, going through various stages of loss, shock, pain, anger, sadness, and whatnot. Yet I came into my acceptance feeling a bit like a Pandora, recreated by an abundance of gifts received. Truly, I have been gifted and blessed. To the Regents and their support staff, as well as to my family and friends, I thank you wholeheartedly for your support, your guidance, your patience, your acceptance, and your friendship. Due to the circuitous way that giving to one benefits everyone, we are all made better by the relationships that we form and hold. Bless you all, and thank you for making me better.
Jessica, I'm hoping you'll come around again so some of us will get 2 hugs. Does that work?
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Jessica. We now turn to Regent Balbo to present a resolution of appreciation to Regent Wingate.
I'd like to ask you to consider the order of appearance in the future. Jane, please. I can't follow that. I have a resolution of appreciation for Regent Aaron Wingate. Excuse me. And before I read the resolution, I'd like to offer maybe some elderly advice to young Aaron in the form of a list of 10 don'ts. Now, these are just offered, and what you do with them is certainly up to you. Number 10, don't pick a major course of study that you can't spell. Don't sheepishly ask for advice and then proceed to give the answers. Number 8, don't entice. This goes for Jessica, too. Don't entice elderly members of the Board of Regents into student drinking games. And I got that same don't from my spouse. So. Number 7, don't stop your current practice of being with someone who is way above you. And if you don't know what I mean, that's Paulina. 6, don't be patient, at least until you qualify for Social Security, which for you means don't ever be patient. Number 5, don't forget the wonderful people and family who have supported you without limits and will continue that level of support. Number 4, don't be in a rush to receive too many emeritus designations. Number 3, don't delay your education. Keep your commitment to yourself. Number 2, don't ever take another Regent's parking space when they are trying to park in it. Ever. And number 1, don't let anyone or anything dampen your drive, your enthusiasm, or your commitment to do what is right. The resolution of appreciation, whereas Aaron Wingate has dedicated 2 years of exemplary service as a student regent of the University of Wisconsin system from 2009 to 2011. And whereas Aaron, a first-generation college student, graduated in May from UW-Eau Claire with a degree in biochemistry and molecular biology, and with the distinction of being the university's first Truman Scholar and the first UW-Eau Claire student to serve as a regent. And whereas Aaron's passion to pursue a career in public health policy, in part, arose from his experience in numerous campus leadership positions, including that of a student senator, a role he credits with allowing him to work with his peers on solving real-life complex problems. And whereas Aaron holds a deep belief in moving Wisconsin forward through a strong system of public higher education, and championed this value throughout his service on the committees of Business, Finance, and Audit, Personnel Matters Review, and the Chancellor Search for UW Colleges and UW Extensions. And whereas, as a member of the Regent Diversity Awards Selection Committee, Aaron celebrated those educators who go the extra mile to create positive changes in campus climate and expand equitable opportunities for student success. And whereas Aaron was responsive to the UW system student body, consistently advocating for continued affordable tuition, increased financial aid, enhanced academic quality, and respect for the student role in shared governance. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System thanks Aaron Wingate for his distinguished and dedicated service to the citizens of Wisconsin and the UW system, and wishes him well as he opens the door to all of the exciting opportunities that lie ahead of him. Aaron, congratulations.
So, I've introduced many of you to my mother, Suzanne, who's sitting in the back. I'm embarrassing her, but I had introduced her to Mike and Sheila on Wednesday night, and my parents lean a little bit Republican, and so they got to talking for a while, and afterward I had told her that Mike and Sheila are somewhat conservative, and she said to me, "No wonder why I like them so much." And so that got me to thinking. As a fairly liberal person, I still haven't figured out why I like Mike so much. It must just be Sheila, I guess. No, in all honesty, even though we can argue all day about Citizens United or anything else, Mike has been one of my greatest supporters on this board and friends, and thank you for that, Mike. And his words were pretty nice, too, so I won't show any of the pictures from the Rose Bowl where Mike tried to keep up with me and my friends. So that's another story. Anyway, as incredibly hard as it is to say farewell, UW-Milwaukee, I guess, is a very fitting place for me to say it. I doubt many of you remember me back then, but I traveled to UWM in May of 2009 to my first Board of Regents meeting as just a student before I was appointed. At my first meeting, I was invigorated by what I saw. Upstairs, I saw Regent Walsh defending student rights in a Chapter 1718 debate. Downstairs, I saw Regent Falbo defending student access to education at a Madison Initiative discussion. And Regent Falbo was actually the first regent I ever talked to. And I bet you don't even remember that out in the hall. As a student, barely familiar with the Board of Regents, more than anything else, this commitment to students, this fight on behalf of thousands of students who see the Board of Regents as a world away, that is what drove me to apply to serve with all of you. After I was appointed, the day of my first board meeting, I was told to go up to Bascom Hall and read the plaque that's on the wall. It moved me when I read it, and I know many of you have probably heard it before, but I'd like to say it for all of you again because of how important it was to me. The plaque reads, "Whatever may be the limitations which trammel inquiry elsewhere, we believe that the great state University of Wisconsin should ever encourage that continual and fearless sifting and winnowing by which alone the truth can be found." This statement comes from a report issued in 1894 from the Board of Regents. This statement has helped defend academic freedom around the world. I realized that day the importance of what we do here at this table. That statement has driven me to give it everything I have over the past 2 years. So these sifting and winnowing plaques are distributed around the UW system, and I've always taken the time to find them when I visited a campus. And so 2 months ago, I found the final one as I visited the 26th campus of the UW system. And it was a two-year journey with all of you, and I've learned so much. And I urge you to stay strong in this defense and continue to defend this university system for students who will never quite know what you do until you raise tuition. They will. But even then, that you defend their access to an opportunity that will change their lives. I guess I'd like to share you one key lesson that I've received while serving here with all of you. I've learned to embrace overwhelming situations. I've learned that anything really worth doing should feel impossible at the beginning. It is through those experiences, overcoming what I thought was impossible, that I've learned the most and grown the most as an individual. I've learned to love the insecurity found in facing the toughest challenges. And I've realized that through the process of overcoming the impossible, I've learned more than I could ever imagine. And it's only because of all of you that I learned that. Finally, I must give a profound thank you. In particular, I have to thank Jane. You do so much for all of us. And you have been a constant advisor for me. You've been there for me when I've had particularly tough policy questions or when I've had particularly tough situations with my friends. And you've been there for all of it, and thank you for that, Jane. And I have to tell you, it's almost karma that I'll be staffing a national committee on rural health as I go forward, because we do all of the research that goes into what this committee deliberates, and then we do all the writing that then somebody else gets to put their name on. And so it's quite karma to get that flip and see the other side of the situation. And they told me at my first meeting with the director of this office, he said when I'm staffing it, he said, "We have to make them feel important on this board." And so thank you, Jane, and all of you, for making me feel more important than I should be for the past 2 years. All of you, regents, chancellors, provosts, system staff, faculty, student leaders, your advice and friendship has meant so much to me. I can't start listing you all, or it'll sound like the Academy Awards, but I'll suffice to say, this experience has changed the course of my life. And it's only through my relationship with all of you that has happened. I will never be able to express how honored and thankful I have been to be accepted so fully as your colleague. The UW system is a very special place, and it has been my privilege to be a small part of it for the past 2 years. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Aaron. Fellow Regents, Chancellors, and System staff, be forewarned, we will all soon be working for Jessica and Aaron someday. So, I will now call upon Regent Drew to present the resolution of appreciation to UW-Milwaukee for hosting the June meeting. Regent Drew.
Thank you, President Pruitt. I've come to look forward to the June meeting at UW-Milwaukee. It gives me the only chance I ever have to walk to work. I am delighted to be a neighbor of the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and also very proud to be a graduate of the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Now to the resolution. Whereas the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System represents UW-Milwaukee as a crucial catalyst for the economic well-being of the city of Milwaukee and southeastern Wisconsin, and salutes the university's commitment to both expanding its research capacity and providing quality higher education access to the broadest possible audience. And whereas the Regents profited greatly from the presentation, powerful ideas producing proven results with our community partners, shared by Chancellor Mike Lovell and his co-presenters, Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett, Johnson Controls Director of Government Affairs Michael Andrew, Children's Hospital President and CEO Peggy Troy, and Badger Meter Chairman, President, and CEO Rich Musin. And whereas the Regents appreciate that UW-Milwaukee is sailing with the wind and embracing the challenges and opportunities presented by emerging technologies through its Digital Future Planning Initiative. And
whereas the Regents benefited from the knowledge shared on how the UW-Milwaukee Master Plan initiatives are entering the implementation phase, including the successful acquisition of the Columbia Hospital Northwest Quadrant property and the pending construction projects for the School of Freshwater Sciences, School of Public Health, Kenwood Integrated Research Complex, and Innovation Park. And whereas the Regents enjoyed visiting the Cambridge Commons Residence Hall, which is the latest product of the UW-Milwaukee Real Estate Foundation. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System is grateful for the warm hospitality extended by UW-Milwaukee faculty, staff, and students throughout this annual springtime visit.
Thank you, John. Thank you again, Chancellor Lovell, to you and all your team who have done just a remarkable job over the last 2 days. We are really very, very appreciative of all your efforts, and I will, as one of my last asks as President, rule that that commendation was passed by acclamation, if I may. We now move to the election of officers of the Board of Regents. The bylaws of the Board specify that officers of the Board are elected at the annual meeting, which is held in June, and hold their offices for 1 year. If there is only one nominee for an office, the election is by voice vote. If there is more than one nominee, the election is by ballot. Terms of office begin immediately after the June meeting, and we begin with the election of a president. I would like to ask if there is a nomination for the office of President of the Board. Regent Bradley.
Mr. President, I would like to be recognized to place in nomination Regent Michael Spector. When Mike first joined this board, he was asked about his preferences for committee assignments. And very characteristic of Mike Spector, his response was, well, just let me know what you think, where you think I could help. I'll do whatever is necessary. And every president that Mike Spector has served with has had ample opportunity to tap into his considerable skills. In fact, this is pretty much the story of Mike's career. He has been recognized for his mastery of the facts, for his fairness, and for his inclusive and respectful style. He has had corporate leadership positions, school board leadership positions, he's had statewide committee leadership positions, and as you all know, he has had regent leadership positions. Mike has the respect of Governor Walker, and also the respect of the leaders of both the Republican and Democratic Party in the legislature. These are some of the characteristics of Mike Spector, but what's most important to me and why I am urging your support for his candidacy as president is what is in his heart. Mike truly cares about public higher education in this state. He truly cares about the welfare of our students, our faculty, and our staff, and he very much cares and is very knowledgeable about the goals that we have established as a board for higher education in this state. So, Mr. President, I am very proud to make this nomination.
Is there a second to the nomination, Regent Crane?
I would like to second that nomination and simply say that for his wisdom, his balance, his fairness, his rational approach to issues, and his respectfulness at all times. He's the leader for now.
Thank you. So Mike Spector has been nominated for the office of President. Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? If not, then the election is by voice vote. And so I would ask all those in favor of this nomination, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. You appear to have a mandate, Mr. President. Congratulations. We now move to the election of Vice President. Is there a nomination for the office of Vice President of the Board? Regent Womack.
Thank you, President Pruitt. It is with great pleasure, enthusiasm, and conviction that I nominate the statesman from Milwaukee who continues to demonstrate his talent for understanding all facets of the UW system's business, including his passion for educating the populace and his demonstrated compassion for the support of the leaders of the UW system who work tirelessly and sometimes thanklessly to support teaching and learning. I would like to nominate Michael Falbo for the position of Vice President of the UW system. Michael Falbo, as I recall, and when I walked into the halls of Congress, the Library of Congress last summer, there was a quote that said, "We must always shoot for the stars. Any other destination is too low." Michael Falbo feels that way about the UW system, and I enthusiastically support his nomination for Vice President.
Thank you. Is there a second to that nomination? Regent Vasquez.
Mr. President, I would also like to second the nomination of Mike Falbo as Vice President. I have known Mike for several years. I have found him to be an individual that is highly respected, most definitely in the Milwaukee metropolitan area, but I think also in all of southeastern Wisconsin. Mike is an individual that is, through dedication to professionalism, to his work in the community, his civic involvement, has been recognized as an individual that can reach out to all aspects of the community, whether they be political, whether they be economic, or whether they be social. And as a result of that, I think that he would be an excellent Vice President who would really represent the university system in a very, very fine way, and would be respected by the community. So I do second the nomination.
Thank you. Just before I move on, Regent Loftus, are you there?
I am.
Okay. I just wanted to, we heard a little background noise. I just was confirming. So Regent Mike Falbo has been nominated and seconded for the position in the office of Vice President of the Board. Are there any further nominations? Regent Menendez.
Yes, President Pruitt. I nominate Brett Smith for the position of Vice President. I have known Regent Smith for many years, and I know it pains him to admit this, but we were classmates at the University of Wisconsin Law School. So I knew that he was kind of desperate when he asked me to nominate him. Seriously, I've known him as a professional after law school for many years. I can tell you that over the years he has developed a reputation in our profession and our part of the state as being a well-prepared, competent, and this is most important, ethical attorney. He does difficult work representing people that are injured or have been injured by someone else or have injured someone else, and that's not easy. Over the course of his career, he has taken his profession to the next level, and that level is realizing that there's more to our profession than simply winning, beating the other person, or getting a good result. He's taken it to the level of being a counselor, someone that is trusted, someone who wants to see the right thing being done, and is compassionate about getting there. It is those kinds of qualities that I think Regent Smith will bring, and you know has brought to this board over the years in every single effort or task that has been asked of him since I've been here, and as I hear since before I was here. I think that he will act in a manner which is in the best interests of the citizens of Wisconsin and the system of the University of Wisconsin. And that is why I'm nominating him. Thank you.
Regent Brent Smith has been nominated for the office of Vice President. Is there a second to the nomination? Regent Davis.
Thank you. I was not a classmate with Regent Smith, but I have known him since I was a student as an undergrad at UW-La Crosse a little over 20 years ago. And from that time, I've known him to be a great supporter of UW-La Crosse and the UW system. I've had the pleasure of serving with him on this board as well as the Technical College System Board. And throughout that time, again, seeing his commitment, seeing his knowledge, seen his understanding of what it takes to run these higher institutions of higher education in this system effectively, and I think he'll do an outstanding job as Vice President.
Thank you. So Regent Brent Smith has been nominated, and his nomination has been seconded. Are there any further nominations for the office of Vice President? As I mentioned earlier, if there is more than one nomination, the election is by ballot. I will ask Secretary Radu to distribute the ballots, collect them, and count them. Regent Loftus is on the phone, and after consultation with the General Counsel, it was determined that the balloting procedure for any regents attending by phone would be to send their vote by email to Secretary Radu. Regent Loftus, are you able to vote in this manner?
Yes.
So we will now have those ballots distributed, and we will vote, and then we will count them, and we will announce the results. Regent Bartel.
Mr. President, I would just like to speak on behalf of all of them, I think on behalf of all of these regions, that we are so fortunate to have two such thoughtful, capable, and compassionate candidates who will be, either one of whom would be a great leader for this board.
Regent Davis.
Okay, and I absolutely agree with Regent Bartel in terms of both Regent Smith and Falvo are outstanding, committed individuals, and they have demonstrated same on this board. I do want to say, however, that, and you know me to not be shy about expressing myself, so I'm going to take the liberty that I'm probably not going to have very much longer as my term is up, to say something that I feel compelled to say. And that is that in the 8 years plus that I've been on this board, we've never had a contested election. There's nothing wrong with that except timing. In my mind, the time for signaling bipartisan commitment on the part of this board is now, and Mike represents that. I have indicated, I told Brent when he called me 2 days ago, that, and I appreciate the fact that he let me know that he was running, that I was committed to Mike a long time ago and remain so. I will admit, and I think many of you know this, that I consider him a very deep personal friend. I also think that Brent and I go way back as well, so it's not a matter of one versus the other being better. It is about what's in the best interest at this time for us to do, as we not only try to get across the finish line with this budget, but the 17-member task force and all the other stuff that's going to happen in the next year or two. I think it would be not a good idea for us to not elect Mike Falvo. So I feel the need to say that because I think in the spirit of what's in the best interest of all, and conceding really in a positive manner that we can't go wrong with either individual, I would say and urge that you, and I don't know if this is appropriate, but I just feel like saying it, that you consider a wider scope when making your vote.
Thank you, Regent Davis. I think we will distribute the ballots, if we may. I think if you would mark your ballots, and then Ann or Jane will probably. I'm sorry. And Jane will then come around and collect them.
Like grade school.
Remember when you used to have to put your head down and go like that when you voted? That's how I used to vote. Remember you had to put your head down and then you raised your hand and the teacher counted the votes and everybody looked and picked out who was voting out? And just to confirm, Regent Loftus, you have emailed your ballot in?
I have emailed it to Jane.
Thank you.
your voter ID.
Secretary Radu is removing the hanging chads from ballots.
We've got a lot of lawyers.
Yeah, let's let the lawyers decide. This is when we need Tim Russert to kind of fill in and sort of give us a little bit of, sort of like, fill the gap. The results of the Vice President election, Regent Falbo received 5 votes, Regent Brent Smith received 12 votes. So Regent Brent Smith has been elected Vice President of the Board. And I know I speak for all of us. I know I speak for all of us in just echoing Jeff and Danae and others' comments about how fortunate we were to have 2 such extraordinary candidates. So congratulations to both of you. You may, Regent Spector. You are the president now.
Not yet. I want to mirror your comments to say to both to Mike and to Brent what terrific people you are to be candidates. I think it's a tribute to the board and to all of those who spoke about you. I feel that strongly. I look forward very much to working with Brent as the Vice President. I look very much forward to working with Mike in a variety of ways, as well as with all of you. I think we have an unusual and challenging year, and I wanted to add just one thought, which is how much I've learned from Chuck and how much I appreciate all he's done. I won't belabor the comments made earlier, but he's been terrific, and I would certainly include David and Mark as well as what I've learned from them. But I look forward to this one year being the best we can make it with the help of all of us and working together, and I know we will be successful, and I include the chancellors and the provost and Kevin and his staff. I feel very strongly about the system. I feel very strongly about all of you, and I know we'll make it work. And thank you.
Okay, this other stuff wasn't really so important. Now we go to the really important stuff, the election of the Secretary of the Board of Regents, Assistant Secretaries, Trust Officers, and Assistant Trust Officers. Incumbents are Jane Reduce, Secretary, Jessica Lathrop, Ann Notestad, Assistant Secretaries, Deborah Durkin, Trust Officers, and Doug Herr and Tom Stafford in Assistant Trust Officers. Is there a nomination to elect these officers, please?
So moved.
Is there a second? Are there any further nominations? Let us hope not. If not, all those in favor of the re-electing the incumbents say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you. Are there any... Are there any communications, petitions, or memorials? If not, we will...
I have.
Oh, I'm sorry. We never have that anything there. I'm sorry, David. Go ahead.
I have to say this, it comes from not only serving as president, but observing a little bit distance the recent 4 months, because sometimes some people are better not seen or heard from, and that's me. But I just want to say something, and that is that what we just went through for 4 months was very difficult. It was difficult because of how it arose. It was difficult because it was monumental. It was an issue that was of great importance to the state of Wisconsin. But the good news, two things. One was the message from the state of Wisconsin that they love their higher educational system and they like it the way it is, and that they care about the University of Wisconsin-Madison, but they consider it their school. The second message is, and that is that we wouldn't be sitting here today happy with the result except for the leadership of Chuck Pruitt. And when I talk about leadership, I just don't mean getting in the car and driving around the state and meeting with the chancellors and meeting with businesses. I'm talking about good old-fashioned damn good judgment. And I want to thank you, Chuck. I think the state should thank you. I think the board will thank you. And I just want to tell you it's been a great pleasure to serve with you, but thank you most for your leadership in these trying times.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. I learned from a master or two here before I assumed this position, so that means a lot to me. All right. Are there any other communications, petitions, and memorials? He asked with considerable trepidation. If not, we will take a 10-minute break because we do have a very full closed agenda, and I know there are a lot of regents and others who might like to get on the road. So we will we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll reconvene to move into closed session to consider a range of issues. Thank you all very much. Safe travels to those who are leaving.